Now, business owners are calling for workable solutions to save the cedi depreciation and inflation that are currently killing their profit. Their call comes ahead of the 2023 budget presentation, which is to be delivered by Finance Minister in less than 24 hours. JoyNews has been capturing some of the expectations and projections ahead of tomorrow's presentation in the following News Desk report.
The 2023 budget has been characterized with a lot of controversies, from majority MPs in the House demanding the sack of Finance Minister, or they will boycott its reading, to minority MPs threatening to boycott the entire process. The ordinary Ghanaian has expectation with respect to the 2023 budget. Business owners are calling for solutions to the challenges of the economy.
Phones from China and the accessories from China, and I think the dollar is worrying us a lot in doing our business. And then the government has to see to it so that they can reduce the dollar rate, or they can push the dollar into the country so we can all work peacefully and then the business can flow. Because now business are not flowing, everything has been paused. So I think the finance minister must work on this quick as possible.
It's all about the dollar rate. At least if the government can do something about the rates, because if it keeps on going up, it affects business as well. It makes prices shoot. But should it go down, it also helps us to at least lower our prices for people to buy. Especially since it went up, things have been really difficult when it comes to the market side. Because we need to adjust our prices as well. Imagine buying a laptop somewhere around June for 5,000, and now you need to buy it around 9,000 to 10,000. You see the difference? It's all down to the dollar rate itself. Because at that time, dollar rate was somewhere around 7 to 8, not that much. And it's doubling up really affects our business as well. So if government can do something about the dollar rate itself, we be very, very happy about it, because it will push our business as well and help those who need laptop to buy.
At the market, traders are lamenting the high cost of transportation. Many have had to inflate their prices to cover the cost as well as make profits. They are hoping this budget will cut out taxes on petroleum products so the cost of transportation will reduce.
How the match and so. Yanto sikeni ho. Sise ni epeso ye say petrol no nteso. Ni nyina fi petrol na aba nti na niam no bo ayedin. Ote petrol no so na baby omodi fi baba no. One so ombete so, me yanso yate so.
We 150 mpo kita obenya bi say 5.5. But okese ni nyina water no 12 million. Na nse na jama aye yi kakra. Ndi wo monhwa ma ye na yanso abiadifo no ntumi nto na yantunya bi. Yaton ye de ahye mba na esi ade anya kra.
Minko ade a ka me fese loli fe no wo so hwe mai. Oye se loli fe ni de ekọ no e ha adwene. E wi di se ye dwuma ye bia wo ba wo dro ba ko pe ye gi loli fe nko 10 cities 12 cities. Utimi se loli fe almost by 6 million 7 na ade ye bre.
Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Kojo wants government to cut down on net expenses for the 2023 fiscal year.
So the budget statement would execute what is in our medium-term strategy. So 1 year, 2023 budget alone will not address all our problems. It will to some extent, but we need a medium to long-term plan of strategy. In this 2023 budget, I would expect to see what are the measures we are putting in place to address our fiscal challenges. Revenue mobilization has been very, very slow. We saw the poor performance of e-levy, our anchor, prior to going to the IMF. We've seen that other tax handles are not yielding the needed revenue. So I would want to see new and innovative measures to be introduced in the 2023 budget that will shore up our revenue mobilization strategy. We've seen GRE do its best, but I think we need to go a step further.
On her part, economist lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Presla Chumesi Bafo said government will be shooting itself in the foot if it announces new capital-intensive projects.
I will not be surprised to see that they reinstall road tolls. Because first of all, the removal was quite something that was surprising. The president hinted about property taxes, the expenditure as well. Because given that we do not have, for every cedi that is efficiently spent, it means that it will be good value to the people of Ghana rather than spending on other things that are not necessarily important. So at this point, it is more about bread and butter issues for government, keeping essential expenditure and taking out all the others that are not necessary. So I will be very surprised if I should see a rollout of big capital expenditure items in this 2023 budget, because that is not something that would be feasible.
So what will the 2023 budget present? Will it answer the prayers of the ordinary Ghanaian? Only time will reveal.
Now, joining us on Zoom for more on what Ghanaians must expect of this budget is an economist, Dr. Patrick Esuming. Doc, grateful that you could join us. What should we expect of this year's budget?
Good morning and good morning to viewers. So I think the 2023 budget takes on additional significance because of the current circumstances that we are having as a country. So we are in discussion with the IMF to try and get a bailout, and times are very tough and things are not going on well at all. So that means that the 2023 budget really has to be one that comes up with credible proposals for fixing the problems of our economy. Admittedly, one budget is not enough to fix all our problems, but at the very minimum, it should signal a policy direction that will tell us that we are going to fix the main problems of our economy. So, I mean, against that background, I think what I would expect to see is, a sort of an attempt or the beginning of a process to restructure the real side of the economy. So, in the current discussions, it's become apparent that the structure of the economy we have is a big contributor to the difficulties that we are having. And both the current president and the immediate past president have spoken about how we need to restructure the economy. So I hope that the 2023 budget will give us a clear sense of direction in terms of what we are going to do to restructure the economy in that sense. So when you play your clip, you've seen Ghanaians asking for the currency depreciation to be halted and the fuel prices to also be reduced. But you know that the recent rise in fuel prices is primarily because of the depreciation of the currency. And the depreciation of the currency is not something that we are going to solve overnight, because some aspects can be dealt with in terms of dealing with the institutional things that makes it easy for people to buy dollars anyway and allow people to quote in dollars and sell in dollars. So that one we can fix, but we have to understand that over the long term, we have to generate more export revenue than we are importing. And that requires a little bit more painstaking policy and measures to address. Okay. Then the big elephant, obviously, is that we are going to have to deal with the deficit and the debt. And so you definitely expect that there will be some revenue measures.
Prof, okay, so I mean, a lot more people are also looking forward to fuel reduction, but you've said that it will be quite difficult for us to look at it. So what specific things are you expecting to hear from the finance minister, which will give you, an economist, the confidence that we are probably back on track, or this budget could get us back on track?
So, I mean, broadly, there are revenue measures and then also the expenditure side. So in terms of the expenditure, well, I think, the government really has to signal that, we are going to see more efficiency in the way we spend public funds. So there's the issue about the size of the government itself that, we don't need to belabor it. It's been widely said. So some action in that direction will be helpful. But I also think that we need to think about the perks we give to public officials. You know, if we are facing very difficult times as we are facing, I think it's good for the government to signal that it is also, you know, tightening its belt. And one of the surest ways to announce that from now on, what we give to public sector or what we give to government employees, the ministers and the other appointees, by way of fuel coupons and all the other things that they get, we are going to cut them. Admittedly, that is not enough to put a significant dent in our debt situation, but at least it signals that these are difficult times. The government itself is doing something, is giving up something, and then it's easier for the government to ask for Ghanaians to do something. So that is on the expenditure side, and also try not to grow the expenditure, you know, on year-to-year basis as much as we've seen in the last few years. On the revenue side, so I think it would be a travesty really if we saw some more indirect taxes. But as others have said, I would like to see the government bringing back the road tolls. You know all the troubles and all the traffic that the road tolls were causing. But the answer was not to say I'm going to scrap the road tolls, because we know that there are leakages in the amount of the road tolls that were collected, and that's because of how it was collected. Now we have more technology to be able to ensure that we collect a lot more of the tolls, and then we have to question whether the rates also have to go up. So that is something that will be good to see, the road tolls element. Then we might also want to adjust our tax system to ensure that we collect a lot more from the rich. You know, these are difficult times. And then we know the ordinary Ghanaians who spend a higher fraction of their incomes on food are really feeling the pinch. But at the same time, we know there are some who are relatively better off and could contribute a lot more. So I would like to see measures to ensure that we are collecting more from the richer folks. Then in the last year, this year we've passed the exemptions bill. And we've passed there's been some activity around the property taxes. I think that is another area where the government should really consider seriously in terms of raising more revenue.
Okay. But finally, before I let you go, we've not had any program with the IMF. How do you expect the negotiations with the IMF to influence the sort of budget that government will bring going into 2023?
Yeah, you expect that, you know, even though the negotiations have not been concluded, you would expect that the sort of things that are being discussed should feature prominently in the budget that is presented tomorrow. Because, you know, the budget is going to be implemented in an era where we will be an IMF program. So whatever is being discussed really should play a big role. It would have been great if the negotiation had been concluded before the budget was started, but the timelines haven't allowed that.
Okay.
So I think it will be important for the government to be truthful and be honest about where the negotiations are, and but at the same time not to make any promises that it ultimately cannot fulfill because it is in the IMF program. So I think in this area it would have been good that the discussions and negotiations with public sector workers are concluded, so that you don't present a budget and then there's a standoff with public sector workers, and then the government feels necessary to give more in terms of the expenditures over the course of the budget year. So we really have to have a budget and set targets that are achievable and realistic.
Okay.
So all the things that we can do before we announce the target, we should do them before we set the target.
Okay. All right. And that's we have less than 24 hours to do that. Wouldn't it be difficult? Something difficult to do then?
Yeah, I think it's unclear why we've delayed or we've allowed the discussion to start pretty late in the day, and it also appears that government's own posturing hasn't helped with the negotiation. I think everybody knows that we are in difficult times. If you observe what has happened on the labor front, it appears that sometimes the government has been too reactionary instead of being proactive and engaging organized labor and being truthful in the discussions that appears that they haven't done that. So you see why, even though they are in a hurry to try and get something done, it's going to be some difficulty. But I do hope that there's a breakthrough today and something will be agreed before we finalize the budget.
Okay, all right. Grateful to you. Dr. Patrick Assuming is an economist with the University of Ghana. Now, MPs have signed an agreement with the party to step down their demand for the dismissal of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta until at least the IMF negotiations. However, party cohesion and uninterrupted run of government business were at the core of the meeting that JoyNews says was convened by President Akufo-Addo. We have details of a resolution passed late last night. First, Latif Idris' report as he monitored proceedings.
I don't think I have to discuss anything.
After close to 2 hours of engagement behind closed doors, the MPs and members of the Council of Elders walked out but declined to comment on whatever resolution that was reached at the meeting. Roads Minister Kweku Amoakwata and MP for Buasi East Patrick Boachi Yadom were dodgy when asked about the outcome of the meeting.
The meeting went well and it has always been going well. For MPP, we are together, we are united, and even if there is any issue, look, we have the capacity, to deal with our own issues and our own problems. We are together, the party, the entire party, through the party leadership, the leadership in parliament, up to the president. This party is always together, is one and indivisible.
The government of the New Patriotic Party is going to present a budget that will bring hope to Ghanaians come 2020.
And who is presenting that budget?
Of course, who is the finance minister?
But we understand you are calling for his head.
No, till then, he is still the finance minister.
Deputy Majority Chief Whip and MP for Tolon, Habib Idris, however, told JoyNews the meeting was a private caucus meeting.
Trying to say is that it's a private caucus meeting. So you don't just interrupt into caucus meeting like that. Especially like if we are having caucus meeting in parliament or the minority is having their caucus. So we just decided that, today we should come here and have our caucus meeting. So when you come in like this, uninvited, and then it's not good. It's not the best. So I beg you. This one, we take serious exception to that.
It remains to be seen whether Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will stay and present the 2023 budget or the NPP MPs prevailed at the make or break meeting.
Well, the party and the majority caucus have at least agreed to let the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta present the 2023 budget and complete negotiations with the International Monetary Fund before the President acts on the request by the majority MPs. In a statement released by the party, it says that over the past 2 weeks, especially after the President had engaged the majority caucus over calls for the ouster of the Minister of Finance, as well as the Minister of State and the Minister of Finance, and a statement on the engagement had been issued, the country has witnessed a heightened public media discussion on same subject matter. There have been occasional individual interventions, some of which have not helped the resolution of the issue in contention. On the other hand, some of these interventions have contributed to escalate tensions and suspicions. At a meeting this evening, that's the 22nd of November 2022, involving the majority caucus, the leadership of the party, and the Council of Elders, it has been agreed by all to refocus and recline to the earlier position requested by the President, to wit, 1, the demand be stood down until the conclusion of the round of negotiations with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, which would feed into the 2023 budget. The presentation of the 2023 budget statement and economic policy on the 24th of November 2022 by the Finance Minister on behalf of the President, and 3, the subsequent presentation and passage of the appropriation bill. The meeting agreed that the President would act upon the initial request of the NPP Parliamentary Caucus after the conclusion of these matters. In the meantime, the leadership of the parliamentary group and the leadership of the party counseled the honourable members of Parliament, members of the parliamentary party, to resort to the caucus communication to restore to the caucus communication channels and to the larger extent possible, work together as one caucus unit. Leadership and the party in this regard call upon members of parliament to attend to all government businesses in the House, including, in particular, the 2023 budget statement and economic policy and all connected matters. It is signed by Honorable Ano Dompre MP, Majority Chief Whip, Parliament of Ghana, and Justin Kodua Frimpong, General Secretary, New Patriotic Party. So that is the statement there. Now, the meeting to negotiate increment in base pay ahead of the 2023 budget has been adjourned, and we know it's been adjourned to tomorrow. Okay, so it was adjourned to today as negotiations stalled on Tuesday. That the unions together are asking government to increase their base pay by 60%. The groups have described government's initial offer as unsatisfactory, forcing the meeting to end earlier than expected. Michael Ashley monitored the meeting and a report.
The meeting, we just understood, has been adjourned to Wednesday, November 23, 2022. For negotiations to continue. We understand it's a sort of a stalemate, and an agreement is to, the agreement, I beg your pardon, is to postpone the meeting to tomorrow. Again, earlier we mentioned that there were some difficulties finding a suitable venue for this particular meeting. The large size of the negotiation labor unions made it difficult for them to use the particular room that they just finished using yesterday.
As we speak now, there's been no deal, and we have adjourned to come back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Yeah, we've not agreed on anything. Well, so far they've been explaining things to us. We are also explaining things to them.
What are they saying? What are you saying?
Well, we are still negotiating. So when we finish, we'll get the end result. We have sent our proposals to them, and we want to be at an agreeable zone. But so far, I think the zone we are in is not agreeable.
Which zone are you in?
So when we get there, we'll cross it.
Do you still
so tomorrow, we will not ask for 60%. When you look at our proposals, it's about 140%. So I don't know where you're getting that 60% from. Well, we are negotiating, we're negotiating. We're all being reasonable. And I think everything reflects in our pockets. And we all know the economy. Yeah, so we are being very reasonable.
Nothing changed from the previous position that government came with. And we are insisting that until government gets to a realistic zone of possible agreements, then there's nothing to talk about, because we can also not sacrifice the lives of our members.
We have the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Rekun, who tell us what really transpired. We have seen most of the labour unions storm out. What they tell us that the meeting has been adjourned. Honourable, can you confirm to us what exactly happened? They told us that you were not willing to negotiate with them, so they had to call it off and probably come tomorrow.
Well, that's not correct. It is not that we were not willing to talk to them. But like I keep saying, we are negotiating. So once you are not getting a consensus, then it will call for adjournment. So it's not like one party is not willing to engage. We are engaging, except that we are not coming to meeting ends.
Okay. Yep. So the decision to call it off is not because you are offering them less than 15%.
It is not. It's not a call off.
Okay.
It is adjournment. I mean, we have had to, go back and continue to reflect. We are dealing with, give and then take. And if you are not coming to ad idem, automatically you then have to adjourn and come back. But the willingness of both parties to engage, as I keep saying, is there. And you could tell that, yes, they wish that they get a certain amount. And we are also saying that we are also considering lots of things. It will be difficult where they are. We need to calm down. They need to, and then we are not getting meeting minds. That is where we are. I'm sure tomorrow, God willing, we'll be able to have a truce. Well, on the back of all those are the reasons why we are meeting almost every day, just to make sure we meet the time and target. And so, I mean, let's hope that we'll complete tomorrow and then the budget will also complete its figures.
Now to other stories. And family of a nursing mother killed by a stray bullet from a military shooting at Manso Datano in the Ashanti region is asking the government to institute measures to end security agent killing unarmed civilians in the country. The nursing mother was reportedly killed by a stray bullet after a military man fired warning shot at the center of the town. Her baby also sustained gunshot wound to the left palm. Family of the deceased say recent shooting of unarmed civilians during clashes have become one too many and must stop. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku has more in this report.
Family of the deceased are in absolute despair and yet to come to terms with the demise of Felicia Dankwa. The 25-year-old mother was killed after being hit by a stray bullet of an infiltrated military officer. The shooting incident is said to have occurred late morning on Saturday when a group of mourners were observing the burial of a colleague who reportedly died after falling into an illegal mining pit 3 months ago.
Ni eni pa me nsa na ejina wo osi ya no busa se mo ne ese mo jimi wa ha no ye hu ya ne sa ba wa twen no de bro yen kona no sase so otutu n otufa soro ojije ni sei otutu fa soro santo de hwe fom no ene pae bosa ene kan yen timi ha e bo ne bo me de wa wu ni de bullets e se ye hwe ne ha no se ye kwa ye koso ni mu no na didi furo na yi.
According to eyewitnesses over here, this is the very point where the military officer gave several warning shots into the air, of which one hit the floor and deflected, hitting Felicia Dankwa, the deceased, just some few meters away from here.
She left behind 1-year-old daughter who was tied to her back when the gun went off. She also sustained a gunshot wound to the palm. A delegation from the Amansia South District Security Council, led by District Chief Executive Clement Opoku, has since visited the family to commiserate with them. Richmond Jemfi is local chief for the area.
Nensama obaye okaye ene se wama full assurance say womu bedi akire ba bia asam no bekwa akopim bia no womu nyaye mu etoso biem yede hye na wowuo no nso no ho modin mo bia na womu bebo say ye be promoted ye be papa mu ehunu say yetuo ampa ana bibi foforo no ni nyina no woma full assurance so womu bedi akire.
However, residents in the community want the military deployment to the area withdrawn.
Soja ni bia ewo kure mu ani bra ba pa ye ni soja ni bia ni tweka
de ya soja fo na ye wo man no nyame anim no kure ano odin e ya asefem na aye kane na enke be mu dua danta ne ye ne wo mu de asi anim nanso no enkonkoba ne sa. The
family says it will be arranging for the burial of the deceased after an autopsy and further investigations have been carried out.
From here at Manso Datano, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
You're watching News Desk here on the JoyNews channel. Now, rising communal tensions in the Yilo National District Security Committee has confirmed report of rising tribal tensions in the area. It comes as chiefs in the district are calling for security and reinforcement to avert an outbreak of violence between Konkombes and Mobes. According to the traditional rulers, the communal tensions have been occasioned by renewed violent confrontations over land, ethnic supremacy and witchcraft allegations between members of the two tribal neighbors across many communities in the district. The district chief executive and chairman of the district security committee, Conlan Britting, in an interview with JoyNews says, although the situation is being managed not to escalate, the immediate establishment of a district police command will help reduce incident of violent crimes in the area. We'll revert to the story later on in other bulletins. But a tourist site enhanced, a canopy walkway added to the Ote waterfall at Amejofe in the Volta Region. Surreal waterfall, canopy walkway, and some kilometers forest reserve with rare animal species await tourists at the Amejofe canopy walkway in the Volta Region. The latest scenery discovery adds to the array of tourist sites in the Volta Region that makes it arguably the hub of tourism in Ghana. Latif Idris, we just returned from the place and has come through with this report.
So the long-held view and argument that the Volta Region represents a microcosm of Ghana's tourism industry has been given a major boost with this latest edition of the Amejope canopy walkway and the Ote Falls, all gathered and lodged at one single location. The hope is that this latest addition will go a long way to boost the local economy and also help to cut back on carbon emission. The 259 steps one needs to take to get to the canopy walkway may be a short journey, but it's one grueling, energy-sapping exercise. A number of potential tourists who set out to the waterfalls and the canopy walkway aborted the journey halfway. The commissioning of the Amejope canopy walkway and the Ote waterfalls adds to the array of scenery in arguably the hub of tourism in Ghana. For the faint-hearted, the over 200 meters walk on the canopy walkway was such a frightful experience.
It was great. I believe this is a great facility, and to me, it will be a game changer for this area. I believe definitely our local economic development in Volta Region and Amejope will be excellent. And the assemblies can generate revenue to develop the area. I think the partnership, I think it was a good partnership.
You are panting.
I'm panting. Charlie, it's not easy.
The main idea for setting up this tourist site is to help conserve and protect species, particularly the endangered.
You have animal species, frogs, butterflies, that you cannot find anywhere else in the world. And these animals were threatened by the loss of the forest and also the consumption by the local people. So we came in to work together with the communities to protect the forest and the animals.
A carbon emissions tracker by the World Bank shows that from 1990 to 2021, Ghana has increased the burning of fossil fuel and consequently increased its carbon footprint from 0.2 to 0.7 during those years. The tourist site is providing the needed solution, be it on a small scale. Though ecotourism may be the overarching mission for managers of this scenery, but the site is also playing an important role to mitigate the global climate emergency.
Tourism part is basically, as I said, to help raise the funding and also give people the experience of coming close to nature, with the hope that we can start a movement of getting all Ghanaians very passionate and interested about conservation.
This engineering work of putting together the canopy walkway was put together by one Kenneth Ekufu Asari. Now, he's been telling me about the motivation behind this engineering work and what the canopy walkway will mean for Volta Region's already booming tourism industry. How long did it take you to put this engineering piece together?
Approximately almost 2 years.
2 years?
Yes. Because of how we were able to bring all the materials. It's very difficult. How to carry stones, iron rods, cement, cables, everything. So it took us 2 years. Yes.
And you think what you have delivered is able to withstand the pressure that will come with it?
As I assure you, look at this kind of ropes. Was imported from Italy. This tiny rope can hold up to 16 tons weight. And look at the number of ropes. It's very, very safe. I assure the whole nation.
Volta Regional Minister, who represented Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia at the commissioning of the canopy walkway, called on tourists to come and experience the region's latest addition to the collection of scenery.
The view is excellent. Look at the waterfall. Look at the vegetation. Look at the mountains. And you can see Logba Tota from here. It's just excellent. It's a nice experience.
You would say this is another feather in the cap of Volta Region's rich cultural and tourism heritage.
That's right. We've always been marketing Volta Region. Visit Volta, experience Ghana. So people should visit Amejope and experience what Ghana has.
From the Ote waterfalls and the Amejope canopy walkway here in the Volta Region, this is yours truly, Latif Idris, reporting and also taking baptism in the Ote waterfalls.
So your Christmas is definitely sorted in the Amejope area. Do go there this Christmas and enjoy it for yourself. A canopy walkway and also a baptism from that waterfall there. We'll take a quick break. We'll bring you business upon our return. Stay with us.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Some stakeholders within Ghana's housing industry are calling for a robust private-public partnership to solve Ghana's housing deficit. According to Managing Director for Switchback Developers Limited, with the local government must implement policies that are driven by development within the sector. Speaking to Joy Business at the commissioning of Edinkra Heights, he said bridging the housing gap will require more investment.
According to Rudy Loco, Edinkra Heights is an apartment that will contribute to solving the country's housing problems. He maintained that there is the need to draw in more investors within the sector for expansion.
There's a bit of a glut, and our economic situation currently is a bit tight. So not to say people don't have money, but I think people are just being cautious and want to see how things play out in the next 6 months to a year. But honestly, it's always the safest place to invest. What we are experiencing today in terms of inflation, if you put your money in real estate, your wealth would not devalue vis-a-vis if you had put the money somewhere else, like in an investment. I mean, today we are all talking about haircuts. There's no haircut in real estate. I think it will help. It will go a long way to even help on the pricing of properties. There are real estate companies that sometimes have to pay for land 2-3 times before they actually start construction. And there's no free lunch. They are not Father Christmases. They would definitely pass on those costs to the final consumer or the buyer.
Minister for Trade and Industry, Alan Tremantin, at the event reiterated government commitment to supporting the sector.
We are all aware that the real estate space in Ghana is dominated by private developers and private investments. But I think that for such iconic projects, it is appropriate for us to have government establish an interest in projects of this nature. And it's against this background that I'd like to commend SNATE for joining with the private sector in developing this initiative. Secondly is the strategic location of this particular development. All the value of any real estate development lies in its location. And that's why earlier speakers are describing this in superlative terms about being the address in town, the prime location, accessibility, so on and so forth.
The structure provides grade A residential space designed to be one of Ghana's iconic mixed-use properties and exhibiting a beautiful landscape.
And that's business. Sports is coming up next. To stay tuned.
Well, welcome back from the break. Time for us to bring you sports. And Lawrence is here with the latest from the world of sports. Lawrence, good morning.
Good morning, Reese.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay. So, what's coming up?
Since Sunday, you know what we've been up to. It's all about the FIFA World Cup.
The greatest showcase in the world.
You just can't miss it.
Yeah.
Amid the conversation, they are missing key players. They won't be able to defend their title. Okay. They won't go past the group stage. Yesterday, France did something good. And I'm sure if you watch that game, you will be clapping for them. The game started quite shaky for them. They went behind in the first 10 minutes of the game. But then, goodness me, you have talent in Mbappe, Olivier Giroud, who was returning to the French squad after being out for some time due to the absence of Karim Benzema. Obviously, Benzema was ruled out after the injury he picked up during training. But yesterday, France played so well, having to come from behind to win 4-1. Giroud scored twice. Mbappe was on the score sheet as well. And then Adrien Rabiot. The 2 goals for Olivier Giroud means that he's now level pegged with Thierry Henry as France's all-time top scorer. You know, you didn't expect Giroud, because Giroud to rack up such numbers in their opening game, because when he went to the 2018 World Cup where France won it, he played 7 games without scoring. So it was quite a point to prove for him.
He's matured as a striker. You know, as a player, when you mature, you learn a lot of things.
The good thing about Giroud is the fact that at this age, you don't even see him growing. He keeps getting better, just like wine, old wine. He keeps getting better each and every day. And that is one thing that was evident during France's win. Elsewhere, earlier that game, earlier the World Cup, you saw Argentina lose to Saudi Arabia.
It was yesterday, yeah?
It was yesterday.
Earlier in the day.
Earlier in the day. It was amazing. You know, many people had written off Saudi Arabia, obviously, because of their unpopularity in the football or in the game. But then yesterday, they showed their true quality. And the fact that they had to come from behind to put up such a show in the second half was a good one. Later today, we will see Belgium. People feel Belgium are going past their goal.
I thought you were going to mention that Saudi Arabia is coached by a man who has done incredible on the African continent.
I think
it's
been uphill since leaving the Black Stars job as a physical trainer. You know, he was here, but he was acting as a physical trainer. Since he left, he's won the African Cup of Nations with Zambia. He's won it with Cote d'Ivoire, and then he was the first person to qualify Morocco to the World Cup after 20 years absence. So he's doing some good work. Later today, we will see Belgium take on Canada in the featured game on Joy Prime. Another good game to look forward to. You know, Belgium we are going past their golden era, so they have a point to prove against Canada, who are returning today. We'll see.
What time is it?
It's 7 p.m.
7 p.m. And that's how we wrap up sports on the bulletin. There's more on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo. Do enjoy the rest of our shows. Have a great morning.